Hi folks, Dom Lawson here from Metal Hammer magazine, the finest magazine that has ever existed anywhere ever. Today's Iron Sandwich, oh good lord. Alright, interesting. Today's Iron Sandwich, it's Daddy Day in my world. And so Ozzy's in the other room and could interrupt at any second, so apologies in advance if he comes in all covered in snot or licking a battery or something. Basically, my brain's gone now. No. Okay, so today, yes, I'm going to talk to you about the brand new album by Brooklyn NYC's finest, or certainly one of their finest, because there seems to be an awful lot of bands that are from Brooklyn. Biohazard, whose brand new album is out on Monday, I believe, and it's called Reborn In Defiance. And it's out on Nuclear Blast Records, and it's their first album in a while, certainly. But I think the important thing about this record for them is it's a comeback, really, in many ways. It sees the classic lineup reunited on the album, at least for the first time in a long time. Since the '90s, certainly, and I think we can safely say that. It's a long-awaited record in many ways because I think, without being too unkind to Biohazard, the albums that they've made kind of in the last 10 years or so have been patchy, really, and I don't think that any of their more recent records have in any way recaptured the brilliance of what they were doing in the early 90s. Now, I think if you go back to the days before nu metal, what wonderful days they were. I'm not just going to bash nu metal, obviously, but actually I might as well, just for a laugh. But no, Biohazard were one of the first bands, I think, to become prominent by kind of combining rapping with heavy music. And although I think it's total bullshit to say that all rap metal, for want of a better phrase, is rubbish, there's certainly been so much awful stuff made in that vein over the years that I think people forget how good it can be, and I think if you go back to Anthrax and Public Enemy doing Bring the Noise and Rage Against the Machine's first album and all that kind of stuff, there's enough evidence there that there's some really, really brilliant stuff that combines metal with rap. Now, Biohazard obviously came from the hardcore scene, and I guess they see themselves as a hardcore band. It's obviously metallic hardcore, and they do share some musical similarities with, the bands that were from the same scene, I guess, Sick of It All and Agnostic Front and Cro-Mags and all that kind of stuff. But Biohazard certainly embraced metal more than most of those bands, and they embraced the rap thing more than most of those bands. But there was always something brilliant about them. I thought, I thought they were a really exciting band. It's one of those things where being a boy from the home counties and living in a kind of leafy suburban street, it's how I am able to relate to the stuff that Biohazard used to sing about and that they still sing about. I don't know. I'm not even sure that I can relate to it, but I find it, in much the same way that I like a lot of hip hop. I find it, it's like watching a movie in many ways. You're seeing things that you can't actually experience yourself, but it's delivered in such a way that it's very believable. Like I say, they've always had a lot of conviction, Biohazard. So certainly for me, the albums that got me into that band were Urban Discipline and State of the World Address, and both of which I think are classic records. Not to everyone's taste, obviously. I know a lot of that kind of chest-beating, macho, vest-wearing, shouting about the streets kind of stuff is going to put a lot of people off. But then you can say that about pretty much any subgenre of metal, really. There's plenty of people that can't get into black metal because it seems ludicrous. One can point the finger at pretty much anything and go, that's ridiculous, in music and entertainment generally, I think. But Biohazard were always a brilliant live band, and so I think the fact that the more recent albums were a bit disappointing and not terribly well produced and a bit seemed a bit half-assed and a bit patchy. One would say that expectations would have been fairly low for this new album, were it not for the fact that it reunites that classic lineup of Danny, Billy, and the other two, Evan Seinfeld and the other fella, the guitarist, Bobby. There you go. So I should just go back a few months to a rather wonderful moment last summer when I was on HMS Hammer, the boat that we have going down the Thames prior to the Golden Gods Awards in London, obviously because it's on the Thames. And Biohazard were kind of headlining on the boat that day, and I don't think It's one of those moments where, I mean, you kind of expect it to be good because it's Biohazard and you're on a tiny little boat and it's going to be mayhem, but it really booted off. And what was particularly amusing was that it was all the middle-aged folk like me. There was a load of blokes with their shirts off, and most of them were in their 30s, without a doubt, all kind of leaping around like it was 1992 all over again, and kind of punching the shit out of each other. It was quite funny. Did worry about the boat capsizing at one point when they played. I can't remember what song they played. It was one of the classics, like Punishment or something like that, and it just it really kicked off. Middle-aged mosh pit going completely wild on a boat. It was very surreal. But anyway, they were fantastic. Now, the thing that obviously we noticed at that point was that Evan Seinfeld wasn't with them, and they had another guy playing bass and singing. And it does seem peculiar that, having made this record, Reborn in Defiance, that Evan Seinfeld will bail out to go and do other things. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it was financially motivated, maybe he just lost interest. I don't know, don't understand what it was. But certainly when I spoke to Billy after the gig on the boat, they were quite tight-lipped about it, really, as if to say, well, we've moved on now, it was his choice, whatever. So I don't think they were too happy about it, but, there you go. But anyway, the point is that Reborn in Defiance is a comeback of sorts, and although the lineup that will be going out on the road will be different from the one on the album, I don't think it matters, because this is undeniably, I would say, the strongest record that they've made since State of the World Address. Production-wise, it's great, sounds huge. If anything, musically, it's closer to Urban Discipline, I'd say, than anything else they've done in recent times. It's got that, those huge kind of hardcore grooves and sloganeering choruses and stuff that are just incredibly infectious. They sound pissed off and angry again, which is great. And it really sounds like a statement of, we're back and we don't give a fuck and we're going to totally boot off. I mean, they were great at Download last year, and it's just. It's evident that they're kind of thrilled to be back on form and performing together again, and the new songs really reflect that. I think. I mean, there's some brilliant tracks on there. There's one that kind of harks back a little bit to things like How It Is and Tales from the Dark Side and stuff, the hard side rather. In that they feature a degree of rapping and stuff, or something close to it. Hang on a second. Hello, Oz. You ate all your dinner? Well, technically it's breakfast, mate, but there you go. Do you want to come and talk to the people, or are you all right? You've got muck all over your face.
I want to talk to you.
You want to talk to me? Well, come up here. We're talking about Biohazard. Do you like Biohazard?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Would you say they're one of the finest metallic hardcore bands of all time?
Yeah.
Yes, would you? And would you like to put on a vest and run around shouting and punching people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you probably would. So there you go, Reborn in Defiance by Biohazard. Ozzy likes it. He thinks it's good. So you should think it's good too. That's the thing. Right.
But I don't like it.
You don't like it? Oh, okay then. Somewhat equivocal support for the new Biohazard album from Ozzy there. It's just, it's an exciting record, and it's one that kind of sums up for me what Biohazard were all about when they were a band that we all loved, back in the day. And I think this should restore them to some degree to the level they were at back then. I mean, I think times have changed and music has changed, but some sounds are just kind of ageless and just work, And what Biohazard are doing on this album is, I think it sums them up brilliantly, but it doesn't sound like a kind of retread of what they did in the past particularly, and it doesn't sound like an attempt to relive past glories. It just sounds like another great Biohazard album, which is, I guess, what we've been waiting for since State of the World Address, really. And I think, in particular, the title track, Reborn, is fantastic. It's a fast-paced kind of hardcore song with a really catchy chorus, and it kind of, it almost kind of gets rid of that idea that Biohazard were kind of sucked into the rap metal thing and were more about that than they were about being a hardcore band. Because really, the essence of what Biohazard do is just thunderously heavy and aggressive metallic hardcore. It just so happens that they incorporated other influences into it, and for the most part, it worked. So yeah, I think this is a great record. I think it's a great comeback. I think if you're not into this kind of thing, then no, it's not going to appeal to you, because it's not, you're not going to have your mind changed about Biohazard listening to this album, because it's a very Biohazard-y Biohazard album. But if you do like shouting and blokes in vests banging on about the streets, then and enormous metal riffs, then you can't really go wrong. What can I say? It's brilliant. Ozzy likes it, but he also doesn't like it, so you can take from that what you will, really. But there you go. It's out on Monday. It's called Reborn in Defiance. It's on Nuclear Blast. It's by Biohazard. Marvellous. What can I say? My brain's gone now, so I should go away. But anyway, I do recommend it. I'm not sure if you can hear tracks online or anything like that, but you probably should be able to. And certainly purchase a copy on compact disc if you're old-fashioned. And there you go. More of this bullshit next week, hopefully. And actually, no, there won't be any. Or will there? I don't know. Who knows? I know, but I'm just playing for time now. So yeah, cheers. See you soon, folks. Take care. Have a good day.